Hey, what's going on, everybody? Uh, Welcome to another episode of Blue Truth and Bourbon. I am your host, Steve, and I posted a update, a reminder early this morning that we were going to talk about policing and pop culture, basically how movies and television and the media have affected the way that law enforcement is portrayed in the country and, of course, across the world. But I pivoted like I did last week, and I was going through some stuff today, and I was looking around, and one of the articles I was reading was about here locally that the Orange County School Board is this week has been talking to 5 municipalities within the county about maintaining the SROs in the schools, and both sides are saying that it's getting too expensive. Neither of them can afford uh, to continue to do what they're doing. Obviously, in Florida with the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, the school board is required to provide security in the schools. And here in Orange County, they contract with the sheriff's office and the municipalities to provide SROs for the schools. And part of their contracts are that they pay a certain portion of the salary of the law enforcement officer that's in their school. And at this point, based on a lot of things, probably cost of living adjustments, just the fact that agencies go through raises, and at some point, somebody's not given their fair share, I guess. And what we also see, of course, in Orange County, and then I'm certain across the country, is a shortage of law enforcement officers. And when you're required to provide security for so many schools, that takes people off the road. And so now, when you're trying to provide both services to the public and maintain security in schools, obviously at this point, the schools are going to win because they got to have somebody there, and the road suffers, or the road suffers. It's a domino effect. The road suffers. Criminal investigation suffers because the road is short, so they can't provide people to criminal investigations and the specialty units, and so the domino effect occurs. And so now, when we start picking and choosing where we're providing security, um, you know, being shorthanded causes some issues. And so, um, we have to be particular about how we're spending our money. And so these municipalities have decided that, something's got to give, and they're not certain that they're going to be able to provide the services, the SROs, for those schools. So, when it comes down to it, what are we doing? And, this is purely conjecture on my part, but I'm assuming that if the municipalities can't cover the schools, the sheriff's office is then probably going to be required to cover those schools. And at that point, the sheriff's office becomes even more short because they're providing security for additional schools. So, yeah, we'll discuss tonight some of the things that have gone on that I've seen. When I was at the sheriff's office, at one point, I was in charge of one of the units that was in charge of handling school threats. And so I got a lot of history with Orange County Public Schools, and dealing with the at least those threat calls. And I've also worked overtime details, because we're short. We didn't have the number of SROs to cover all the schools, or an SRO had called out sick or had a court or something like that. We had to cover a school. So I've covered schools. I've been in the schools working as an SRO. Um, for overtime or to cover a school for somebody. So, um, there's lots of ways here in Florida that we have decided that we're going to try to take care of the kids that we have in the schools, in the school system. Obviously, it's an important thing, and in these days and times, we don't have somebody that shows up that sits there at a school. Um, who knows what's going to happen? We've seen it happen across the country, and we've had it here in Florida. So it's obviously an important issue and something that is of concern to a lot of people. So if you're watching, feel free to comment, say hello. I can't tell who's watching unless you say something. So give me a shout. If you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to offer them up because it's always good to talk. I like the conversation part of it. That's why I do a live podcast. Um, so yeah, talking about the like I said, the Orange County Public Schools had a conversation, obviously, with the 5 municipalities this week, trying to determine what's going to go on. I don't know anything about those conversations. I don't know what uh, took place in those meetings. Um, like I said, I at one point was in charge of a unit that was um, tasked with handling school threats and things like that. So I have a little bit of knowledge of what takes place, and kind of what made it. I don't know if I don't know if a lot of people know that in Orange County, that the Orange County Public Schools actually has an Orange County Public Schools District Police force. Um, Started some time ago, and they started out hiring basically command staff. And I was on their website today, and obviously, I don't think they show all the people that work for them on there, but they have a picture, and everybody that was in the picture was either a sergeant wearing collar brass, or they have one canine, I think. And so I was curious how their hiring practices have gone, because one of the when they first started, and all of this school threats um, for us and investigating the school threats started. I was actually headed into work one day and listening to talk radio. It just so happened that one of the commanders for the Orange County Public Schools Police was on the radio show talking about what they do and how they do it. And I was caught off guard a little bit because one of the comments that he made was that they respond to threats after hours, after school hours. And the funny thing is, being the after hours school threats unit supervisor, I never saw them. They were never on a call with us. I know that sometimes when there was school alarms or something like that, they might respond out to stuff like that, but not once when we responded to a school threat that took place after hours or had to be investigated after hours. Not once did I see them on scene with us. In fact, I know they were never on scene with us. As long as I was the supervisor of that unit, they were never on scene with us. So it's curious to me that we've got, allegedly, in Orange County, a public schools police force that aren't at the schools. And from what I understand, I'm pretty sure that I think Broward County has their own police force. Maybe Hillsborough County has their own school police. But there are schools in the state of Florida that have district school police officers. They're not manned by SROs from the county sheriff's office, uh, as far as my understanding goes. And so I was always curious as to why um, Orange County Public School Board and the Orange County Public Schools Police are not fortifying that force, or why they're not hiring more people to participate in that. And create their own police force so that it takes the burden off of the sheriff's office. Because, like I said before, according to the law, it's the school board's responsibility to provide security. They just contract with the sheriff's office and with the municipalities. So it's not the municipalities or the sheriff's office responsibility to provide. They just contract. So, of course, me, the way I am, and speaking my mind, um, back in the day and today, I still believe this. If I was the sheriff of the county, uh, at this point, they're contracted through the end of the 2024-2025 school year. At some point, I would probably do it at the beginning of a school year. So at the beginning of the 25-26 school year, I would say, look, you've got 1 year to hire a police force. You can do it the same way that we do from other agencies, people, even other agencies that want to join Orange County Public Schools Police. Go out to Valencia and UCF, just like the sheriff's office and other municipalities do, and hand out applications and get these folks through the police academy. Because at some point, I'm going to pull out from my contract and bring the folks back to the sheriff's office, the police department, and I'm going to provide the officers, deputies back to the road or to criminal investigations where I need them, because a lot of the crimes and a lot of the reason the crime is occurring is because of the shortages of deputies, law enforcement officers in these areas. And when there's nobody there, obviously it's easier for criminals to act. So, Chrissy, I appreciate you being here. Um, so yeah, I mean, right now, the sheriff's office, these municipalities are providing SROs, but one and like I said, the alternative is a district school police, which, in my opinion, is the best option as opposed to a guardian program, simply because with the district school police, you're talking about folks that have been through the police academy, maybe have worked at another agency, maybe have been SROs at other agencies, and these folks have been through a background check, and obviously the guardian program, you have to go through a background check, but these folks are already been through background checks. They've been through the psychological evaluations, and they've already had law enforcement experience. Some of them. I mean, I'm assuming that they may hire people directly out of the police academy, perhaps someday, or maybe they do. I don't know, but it's a perfect opportunity to get actual law enforcement or police officers uh, into the schools. And it's funny to me because when you talk about the way that Orange County Public Schools hired, and they hired from the top down, and as far as I know, I don't know how many officers they have, but um, people people get pissed off when they think that police officers or deputies are double dipping in their pensions and stuff like that. And you have an entire organization of folks that, I mean, what are they doing? They're not at schools. you know, Allegedly they're in charge of implementing the programs that Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act provides, but I mean, they're not at the campuses. They don't respond, at least at the time when I was working the unit. They didn't respond after hours to school threats, or even during the day to school threats. Those were all handled by the sheriff's office or the agency that was in charge of the school. So, I'm not saying they're not doing nothing, but that's the perfect example of why people get angry, and pissed off, because somebody's double dipping. And, that's an obvious issue. But, it's important, if you watch this now or you're watching it later on, and you have kids or you had kids or you got young kids coming up, it's important that, we have somebody there to provide protection for them. And this is going to affect all of us and continue to affect all of us, even if you don't have kids, because we're all paying school taxes. And to me, if we're paying those school taxes and there's not you know, I'm paying taxes for a Orange County Public Schools police force that doesn't exist or doesn't do what the SROs are doing. And it was always my thought that that's what their job was going to be, that we were going to hire a police force and the deputies could back out and the officers could back out and eventually become, they would become self-sufficient. They law enforcement officers, they have take people to jail, they can investigate crimes just like anybody else. So, and of course, the other option is the Guardian program, and of course, there's lots of requirements for the Guardian program. I think it's 132 hour. It ends up being 144, 145 hours, something like that. I think it's 100, 144. I think it is 132 hours of basically firearms provision, precision and training. So what's that? Like 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, maybe of training. If you figure it's 8 hours a day, and then 12 hours of certifications and things like that. Um, and the Guardian program again is administered by, or at least the qualifications and things like that are administered by the sheriff's office, or the sheriff of the county, and so they're provided either provide the training or waive the training depending on, I guess, who the person is. Perfect opportunity again for law enforcement officers and retired military, um, who again have been through training, have been through psychological evaluations, have been through the police academy or something like that, the military, and are familiar with how to do those kind of things. Now, of course, there are administrators and teachers that can volunteer for that program. They have to go through the same training program. They still have to be proficient with the firearm. And I'm not exactly how that works as far as, are they in addition to an SRO? Are they in addition to a guardian that's at the school, or even the public school police, district police? I'm not sure how that works. If the teachers who are armed, um, I'm certain they were probably still teaching and not necessarily just being a guardian. So I would assume that that's how that takes place. But like I said, this is an issue that affects all of us. And, if we're spending the money on this, we ought to have some sort of say in what goes on. The shortages that are created by manning schools for agencies, because, you look at what's going on in society today. Less and less people want to be law enforcement officers. That's just the plain and simple of it. I mean, we don't have enough recruits. We don't have enough people that are staying in the job to be able to continue to grow due to attrition, due to uh, firings, stuff like that. It's very difficult to maintain at this point. Um, I know that some agencies are hundreds of people short, and so trying to provide sufficient service to the citizens of the county and still maintain the duties of having folks in the schools, the SROs, and things like that. It's a burden, and it's a burden that's placed on the sheriff's office, the municipalities, that, like I said, even though they are in contract with the school board, it's not their job. They're not required to man the schools. The school board is required to find somebody to do that. And so, where do we go? What do we do from here? Especially if these municipalities, which the last, other than, the article I read today, I read, this morning, but the previous articles I read, and there said that basically these municipalities were backing out, that they just weren't providing, and that the county was going to have to do something about it. The Orange County Public School Board is going to have to do something about it. I don't know if that's the case. Just an article I read. How the news is. They don't ever always get everything right. So, um, what exactly is going to be done? I don't know. Um, from here, and from my viewpoint, the district police obviously, in my opinion, needs to start hiring folks. So, at some point, these municipalities and the sheriff's office, and I'm sure this is the case throughout the country. It's not a Florida, it's not an Orlando, Orange County issue. This is an issue that stretches beyond our borders, and it's something that we have to face because we can't continue to allow school shootings. And of course, the first line of defense is having an SRO, a district school police officer, a guardian at the school. So, what's the answer? I don't know. Um, Obviously, the easiest thing is, of course, having municipalities and the counties handle it, because these guys are well trained. They've been through firearms training. They've been through background checks, and that's what kind of scares me about the Guardian program. I know there are very well-meaning people out there. I know that people that, uh, and I'm sure there's probably a lot of good people that have never been law enforcement or military that are involved in that because they want to provide that type of security. They want to provide that kind of protection for these kids. But, you know, we've seen in our country before well meaning people who have slipped through the cracks that are not so well meaning people. And that's the fear that I have with the Guardian program is that somebody slips through the cracks that's not a good person. And we end up with either somebody who's incapable of protecting our children or somebody that harms our children. And so for me, the Guardian program is not the best choice. And that's in the article that I read today, and I think it was Channel 9 that put it out. They had talked about how the Orange County Public School Board was looking into the Guardian program itself. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't, it's not my cup of tea. It's not what I would prefer. It's not the things that the people that, and like I said, a lot of the guardians could be ex-military, ex-police officers too. So that, that kind of thing I'm okay with. And I realize you can't, if you're going to open that type of, opportunity up, it's, I don't know that you can prevent certain people from putting in for it. You can say, oh, we're only accepting applications from cops or ex-military or, ex-cops or ex-military. I don't know that you can do that. Maybe you can. I'm not sure. And I'm getting a lot of static in this mic. I'm not sure. Hopefully that's not coming through too bad on your end. But yeah, Chrissy, I agree. This is an issue that we, continue to face. Obviously we haven't been able to perfect it because we started with Columbine and we haven't stopped as far as the school shootings are concerned. And so ultimately, I don't know what can be done about it. I'm not necessarily, well, I'm not at all a fan of gun control. I believe in the Second Amendment. I don't think that gun control is the issue. I don't think that guns kill people. Obviously, it's bad people that kill people. It's not guns themselves. I have a gun that sits in my closet every day and hasn't killed anybody yet. So I think it's something that we need to look at. But putting a sign up on the outside of the school that it's a gun-free zone, it doesn't prevent guns. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't prevent people from coming on the property and doing harm. I'm pretty sure that you're not supposed to have gum at school either, but I'm sure if you go in any school today and look underneath the desks, there's probably gum underneath almost all of them. So, and I get that. That analogy is not the same. when we're talking about guns and gum, or pew pews and guns, or gum. That's But you know, realistically, uh, we got to do something. And if we're paying our taxes for it, we're paying to provide a service, and we're paying for a police force, um, like the Orange County Public Schools Police or the district police, whatever they're called. I don't remember exactly how it's phrased, but we ought to be getting something for our money, rather than just a bunch of administrators that sit around and administrate, which is, I mean, if you look at their website, it tells you their duties. And that's, there's a lot of administrative words in their functions. And to me, that doesn't necessitate having an armed person sitting in a building, to facilitate those different things. It's We can hire civilians to do that kind of thing. If we're going to have a police force, if we're going to have armed people, if we're going to say that we're providing security for our kids, and we're going to have a Orange County Public Schools police force, then there needs to be a police force. And like I said before, that always amused me when I heard that certain commander, who is no longer there, but uh, does pretty much the same job somewhere else, I believe. Oh, by the way, Buffalo Trace again. But when he said, yeah, we show up on the scene and work alongside the deputies to investigate these school threats, I was just dumbfounded, that he could get on there and have that conversation. And at that point, I wanted to call in and fact check him before fact checking was a thing. And but I didn't. Uh, I let it go. But we all had a good chuckle at the office because that was what we did, and they were never there. So I see a couple more people have jumped on. If you have any questions about what we're talking about tonight between the SROs and the Guardian program and the district school police, feel free to comment, ask questions. Um, Let me know you're here. Say hey. Again, Buffalo Trace again tonight. But I don't know. Chrissy, what do you think? You've been here for a bit. I know uh, the frustrations of when we were working, because we could have, it might be a case where we were short staffed on our squad. And by the end of, the morning, or, getting up into 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, I say the end of the morning because we start at 5 in the morning, but uh, by the end of the 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, we were having to send a body to go cover a school. And so now you've dumped more work on a squad that's already shorthanded, and we're we're already not able to do the job correctly because of shorting staff, and now we have to even be more burdened with it. Yeah, and like I said, it's not a local issue. Yeah, I agree, Chrissy. It's not just here, but ultimately, our children are the ones. I mean, obviously they're not suffering, but we have to provide security, and I don't know the answer. I think the reason that I pivoted to this tonight was just because my frustrations early on with the program, especially locally with the Orange County Public Schools Police, and I don't know how it is today. I haven't dealt with them in quite some time, but you know when I was dealing with it, it frustrated me that we have a bunch they have a bunch of people that work for them that I never saw, and just from talking to other SROs, the Orange County Public Schools Police, having them even made it more difficult, on the municipalities and the sheriff's office to get information, because now you had an agency that was running block that works for the Orange County Public School Board. And so it was more difficult to get information, um, more difficult to uh, get intelligence on, you know, especially a middle school, high school age, where the some of the folks are, some of the students are committing crimes, and so it was harder to do now that we don't have complete full access to the systems because we have to run it through the Orange County Public Schools Police. Um, yeah, Chrissy, I agree. If you didn't see what Chrissy wrote or you're not watching this live, Chrissy says, "But let's spend 20 billion on TikTok," and that's universal, and that's can be that the case can be made, or that can be said about a lot of things. We're spending lots of money on other things and not spending the money on the important things. And I would venture to say that we could provide an SRO for every school in the country, and probably every school in every other country in the world, with the money that we sent to the Ukraine. And yet here we are still talking about the same thing. And I get the frustration on the agency's parts, again, because um, the agencies are, when they entered into a contract, and I don't know that it was 50-50, that I'll pay 50% of the SRO, you pay 50% of the SRO. But the agencies are paying more and more over the course of the years. And, you know, school boards are not. And so these agencies that are short staffed, that are are not short funded, but that are paying more, they believe it, than their fair share of things, um, creates an issue, and it creates a burden on the system, and creates a lack of protection because, well, and I know this to be the case. Some schools went without somebody being there because the road didn't have the body to send, and the SRO couldn't be there, and there's no guardian. And I would imagine that the public school district police weren't going to provide a body. So, uh, like I said, in my opinion, if I were a chief, if I were the sheriff, uh, my opinion would be that I would go to the school board and go, look, I'm going to give you a year. That's plenty of time to get folks hired. That's plenty of time to get folks trained and get them in the schools. And then I can pull my people back out, put them where they need to be, whether it's on the road, move people into criminal investigations. But now I'm able to provide the services that I'm required to provide to the citizens of said county, said city, without the burden of having to be in the schools. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. I remember that too, Chrissy. Um, Time where they told us there was no money. Yeah. And, you know, like I said earlier, we're in a situation in the United States, at least, where we're having recruiting issues. We can't get people to be cops. And a lot of that's been created by the media, and their portrayal of law enforcement. Especially the last 4 years, but of course, it's been longer than that. Um, you know, we've all seen the cycle. We've all been part of the cycle of the media, and how they have affected what we do, and so I mean, to be honest with you, if I had to start over today, I wouldn't start over. I wouldn't be a cop. Um, the world that we live in is different than when I started, and and to be honest with you, the people that are, not all, but There's a lot of people that are in law enforcement today. Um, don't really need to be there. There, I said it. There's a lot of folks that have this idea of what law enforcement is, and I'm going to get out of college and I'm going to go within 3 weeks. I'm going to be a detective, and um, they've got their head in the clouds, and so that has a lot of things to do with it. That there's no motivation uh, to be cop anymore, and so it's sad. It's a strange situation. So yeah, I mean, if you watch this later on, don't forget to throw your comments in there. Shoot me an email. Like I said, there's the email address. So if you want to shoot me an email, give me suggestions, make comments about what we talk about, throw it there to Blue Truth Bourbon Podcast at Gmail. And I will respond. Of course, we have our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, as well as Instagram, and we're on Spotify. So yeah, again, tonight's topic, a pivot, was out of the blue, um, just an article that caught my mind and reignited a burn in my gut, because people were paying taxes for a unit, or for an agency that really doesn't exist. They really don't do cop work. They do a lot of administrative work, and I don't see any reason for that. So um, next week, we're going to do our live podcast on a Wednesday rather than Thursday. I'm going to be starting my out of town gig for the weekend and doing some work out of town. So I'm not going to be here on Thursday night. We'll be here on Wednesday night. And I think next week I'll actually get around to talking about policing in pop culture, about how movies and television and the media, and I'll even go a step further with that social media has their role in how they have affected law enforcement over the last 75 years. We'll look at some examples of early, you know, early examples of law enforcement that were portrayed in the movies and on television. And then we'll step closer to today and talk about some of the things that go on in law enforcement because of those things, because of the movies and the television and the media, social media. So stick around and follow us for that. I appreciate everybody that shows up, everybody that tunes in to watch later on. Thank you so much for supporting me. Again, I don't do this for views or anything like that. I just I'm a Chrissy will tell you, and anybody else that's here that knows me will tell you. Uh, I'm opinionated. That's why I could never get promoted, because I spoke my mind. I actually had a command staff person tell me, Steve, you wear your heart on your sleeve, and that's a good thing because people know where you stand. And he said, and that's a bad thing because people know where you stand. And so I am opinionated. I like to talk. I like to have conversations. So come back and visit us. Before we get out of here, I'll share a war story with you. And maybe Chrissy can back this up as far as me, but I was a feces magnet. I could step into it. And just so happens that when I was in charge of one of the units in investigations, we had this guy that was robbing banks, and he was robbing banks with he had it almost looked like a water bottle, like one of those aluminum water not really a Yeti or not really, what is it today, Stanley, but like just one of those workout bottles you would take to the gym. And he said there was a bomb in it every time. And so I was heading to work one night, probably, I don't know, 3-ish in the afternoon. And I was headed across from the east side of town back to the west side of town where the main office is. And call goes out, listening to the radio, they had a bank robbery. And it was obvious that this guy. And they were able to get the vehicle description. It was a dark green SUV with a Colorado tag on it. And so I just happened to be close enough where I was close to the sheriff's office, where I got off and the interstate, or not the interstate, but the expressway, and got back on the opposite direction because I figured, okay, well, this guy's probably going to head back to the east side of town because that's where some of the other bank robberies had been. And so I had a unmarked pickup truck, so I set off on the side of the road with my flashers on, like I was, broke down or something like that, just watching traffic. And sure enough, dark green SUV goes by, Colorado tag. You guys probably all know, familiar with that the tags, the green tags with, of course, the white mountain caps. And there he goes. So I called it in, and I followed this guy. We were able to keep marked cars out of the area, but we had them, you know, paralleling us and following. And he pulled off of the expressway into a gas station up to the pumps, and didn't get out of the car, didn't get out of the SUV. And so we were all set up. We had, by this time, several of my guys had showed up and several other unmarked cars, and the patrol guys were on the perimeter. And this guy wasn't getting out of his SUV, and I was like, did he? There's no way he saw me following him. It just, I didn't get that close. I didn't get up to him. I wasn't doing anything squirrely where he would pick up on who I was. He was just sitting in this car, and I don't know, to this day, I can't remember if he was counting the money that he got or what he was doing. But and of course, like I told you, he had this canister that he claimed was a bomb. Well, now he's at a gas station, right? So of course, we've got to make this decision. What are we going to do? Are we going to take this guy down? What's the deal? If we take him down and he does have a bomb and he explodes the bomb, now we explode the gas station. Uh, you know, but again, he's not moving. He's not getting out of the car. So ultimately, we let the civilians that were around start to remove themselves from the gas station. They get their drinks or their gas or whatever and head on their way. And we felt that it was empty enough that we could take this guy down and make the arrest without hopefully blowing us up or blowing him up or blowing a gas station up. So we called it, went in, took him down without incident, and ultimately he was convicted of several bank robberies. So yeah, just one of the many examples of me being in the right place at the right time, or just so much of a feces magnet that I happen to be, uh, you know, lucky. And I tell people all the time, I'd rather be lucky than good. So, um, I had another incident where I went to work sick as a dog. I was a corporal at the time, and a carjacking goes out, and I'm like one block away from where this carjacking goes out, and they give out the vehicle description. All of a sudden, I look in my rearview mirror, and off of my right rear quarter panel uh, is a car that matches that description. And just so happens that the suspect or the person driving the car matches the suspect description. And because of the area that we were in, there were several of us right there. One of the girls that work for me, calls me on the radio and she goes, "Hey, Court, you see that car off your right side?" And I said, "Yeah." So I let him kind of go, and I slide in behind him, and he immediately makes a right hand turn on a street. I mean, like really quick. You guys know, you're all cops here, or most of you are cops here. He makes the real quick turn, jumps off on the side street. I'm like, "Yep, that's got to be him." So we work our way back to get behind him. And of course, at this point, we haven't let him up. We're not trying to create an issue for ourselves. We're just following him, trying to wait on K9 to get there. And we traveled several roads. I mean, we traveled a good distance. And eventually, he decides that he's going to go counter flow, meaning head on into oncoming traffic. And so at this point, I have to light him up. I need to warn the people. And as long as they see lights and hear a siren, they're going to pay more attention to their driving skills than just listening to the music, playing on their phones, driving up the road, and this guy rams into him. So end up in a vehicle pursuit. Like I said, sick as a dog. I'm breathing through a straw, basically. And he crashes into a middle school. This just so happened to be a weekend. So he crashes into a middle school. A front drop-off area, just hits a pole, bails out. And as he bails out, I get out of my car, and I basically had made the decision at that point, hey, I'm either going to pass out running. And I was a bigger guy. I was probably pushing 265 at the time. 6'1", 265. So I'm not a runner, is what I'm trying to tell you. Not a runner. But I made the decision at that point, hey, I'm staying with this guy. I'm either going to pass out from chasing this guy, but I'm not giving up. I'm either going to catch him or I'm not, but I'm not giving up. So we ran, oh God, it had to be 2 football field lengths through this, between running through the school and then running through this back field to a fence that came up to another road. And it was a gate, and the fence is probably, I'd say, 9-10 feet high. And he hit the gate, so it's a double gate. But if you're familiar with like a floating gate, the hinges on it, like you can push the gate so far without it opening, it floats in the middle of the 2 poles that are holding the gate together. And he hit that thing, and instead of climbing up, because it floated with him, and he was stuck on it, he wasn't able to climb because it was floating. So I was able to tackle him, grab him off, secure him, and of course, everybody finally got to me. I'm breathing horribly at this point. In fact, my lieutenant got on the radio and asked me if I needed the FD to respond for oxygen because he could hear how bad I was. So that was quite amusing, I thought. And then apparently some of the K9 guys were talking on another channel about, they shouldn't have gotten in pursuit. They should, why did they do it? Why'd they light him up? We were on our way. And of course, the lieutenant just happened to be listening to that channel and said, it's pretty easy to talk when you don't know what's going on, meaning, this guy's going counterflow into traffic. I would be remiss and probably negligent if I didn't light him up at that point to warn the people. So, but the funnier part about this story is this guy's name was Ray Lewis. Now, he was not the linebacker from the Baltimore Ravens, but his name was Ray Lewis. And when I found that out, I told him, I said, I'm going to have somebody take a Polaroid of my big old fat butt and pin it to your chest so that when you get there, they can go, hey, this is the cop who chased me, ran me down. So I enjoyed that. So I have a Ray Lewis story. But yeah, Hope, are you still here? Give me a heads up if you're still here. Because we were talking, about the SRO stuff, and I know you wanted to tune in for that. You can always watch this back, but if not, I appreciate you guys being here. Not so next week, like I said, I got a gig. I'm going to be out of town doing some work, security stuff. But in 2 weeks, I'm hopeful to get Andy Fry in here, and we'll talk about New Orleans leadership, law enforcement response, lack of response, lack of preparation, and I will tell you this. You'll probably hear me walk back some of my comments about Anna Kirkpatrick. as a superintendent of New Orleans PD, uh, walk back slightly. I still have issues with how she handled the situation, and then in a couple more weeks, like I mentioned this morning, and on my Facebook posts, had a wonderful conversation on Monday night with Mark Devana, retired law enforcement, currently runs or co-founded and works at Protecting the Guardian, and works in the mental health field with first responders, does a lot of public speaking. So we're going to be talking to him. I really want you guys to tune in for that, and I want you to recommend it to your friends. There's a lot of things going on in law enforcement where we're losing a lot of good people, and I really would appreciate you spreading the word on that one, because it's an important issue. It's something that we really have to talk about, and I want people to understand that there's resources, that there's hope, and that they can always reach out. And then you can reach out to me. My email address is right there on the screen. So reach out to me, and I will find you the right help, because I don't want to lose any more. There's too many good people out there. The job is not worth it. You matter more than you know, and so join us for that next week. Like I said, I don't know. We may have a pop up on Friday or Saturday where I'm doing my gig. Saturday probably, so they can see what I'm doing a little bit, where I'm having fun at. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for supporting me, for watching this. Let me know in the comments what you want to hear about. Send me an email and let me know what you want to talk about, because it's hard to come up with topics on a regular basis. And so, again, appreciate you being here. Hope you at least got something out of it. Hopefully, I got your mind going and you're thinking about stuff. And eventually, I hope you get better at this. So I will talk at you later. I really appreciate it. Have a great one, guys. Have a good weekend.